Okay, so we're going to show in Illustrator a thing called 3D Revolve, and we're going to use some type on an image, and we're going to use the image in Illustrator just to position it so we can then deal with the type. So let me open up Illustrator. I'm going to place an image, and this image is going to be placed again just so I know what my form is and how I'm going to deal with this. Normally, we don't usually put images in Illustrator and leave them. InDesign is our digital pasteboard, so I'll actually use this image in InDesign ultimately. But I'm going to create a new image or new Illustrator file. It's okay if it's letter because it really doesn't matter. This isn't the finished project. But I'm going to place this graphic, which is the pipes graphic. And this is just, again, this is for position only. I'm not going to use this graphic permanently. As far as layers go, I'm going to lock that layer. I don't want it to interfere with what I'm doing in Illustrator. Before I lock it, though, I might want to adjust its transparency just a little bit. So I'm going to take that back. Because sometimes you can't see what you're doing because the image is so dark, that's why I'm adjusting that transparency. Okay. Now I'm going to lock that layer so nothing moves. I'm going to create a new layer. And that layer I'm going to be working with will have some type on it. In Illustrator, to do type, I just click. I don't have to click and drag a box like in InDesign. And as I recall, these were lowercase letters, and it was the word bend. Now, all I'm doing is I'm using the scale tool and holding down the shift key so this stays in proportion. And this may be too large. If I want my characters, I can hit Command C. Oops, hello, let me make sure I'm not off the type. Where are my character controls? Okay, I'll go to Window, Type, and Character. Oh, it's Control T. Pardon me. What was this? Helvetica rounded?
Probably.
Well, I don't have it loaded, so we'll just go with Helvetica regular, okay?
Or Arial. Not for Fend.
We're not doing Arial. Okay, so Bend is out there. It's ready to go. But now I need to mimic the way these tubes are created. And this is a 3D object in Illustrator. And I think Photoshop may have some of these capabilities as well. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to get the word bend to appear as if it's inside of this tube and bent inside of that particular what is it called? That face, the interior face. So to create a 3D tube, first I'm going to need to create a 3D tube. And to do that, I have to think about how a tube is made. And a tube is made with a thickness about like so. And the lengths of these tubes are pretty long, so I created a fairly long piece, basically a fairly long line, or actually shape. You can't use the line tool for this. I'll go ahead and make this gray just for the fun of it. So it'll look like a tube, but we aren't actually going to use this tube for anything. This is just so we can see it 3D first. So we're going to make a 3D tube first. We're not going to end up using the tube, the color of the tube. It's going to be colored nothing, actually. We're going to basically kind of create a wireframe, and Tiffany may have to help me because she's done this more recently than I have. I just showed her how to do it, and then she had to do it a few different times. So Tiffany, if I get stuck, I may ask you because you've done it more often recently than I have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a 3D revolve effect on this. It's like if you envisioned slicing this tube, this is the thickness of the material. Okay? So I'm going to take this thickness of the material and I'm going to click on Effect. And this is a 3D effect. So 5 items down in the effects panel is 3D. Now, you have extruded bevel, you have revolve, and you have rotate. Now, we're going to use revolve. We want this little piece of sliver of metal to revolve to create a tube. So I'm going to use revolve. Now, guys, keep in mind that this creates a lot, this uses a lot of computer power. You don't want to have a whole bunch of other software open. It uses a lot of RAM, and it takes time, so don't get too click happy. Preview is nice because you can see what's happening. But you're like, okay, something happening, but I don't know what. Now what it did is it's the angle right now is straight. These tubes are not straight. Those tubes go off in the distance. This square right here, if I move it like so, it will make that tube go off in the distance. Now you can't really see a whole lot going on, but you see the wire framing, hopefully.
This selection is being interpreted
because of what I'm doing with this 3D cube. It's now a three-dimensional image. It's taking that little slice that I created and it's revolving around to create a solid tube. Okay. Now, it's not as wide as these tubes, so I need to work with the offset of this. The offset is how round do I want this tube. Okay. Now, right now, this tube has a cap on it. You can't see into it like you can these tubes. So you see that there's really not a whole lot going on there. You're like, okay, what's going on? I don't see the tube. I don't see 3D. Well, let me open this up. Click the cap open button. Let me see if it'll... Let's see if we can see, when I rotate this, let's see if we can see through it. Now you can see through it, but you can see through the other side, but you really don't see that this is doing much shading. You know, it's like, wow, that's pretty boring looking. If you wanted to do some shading, you could do some diffuse shading. This color doesn't shade very well, this gray. I might go with a blue or something. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, even though this is not what I want. And I'm going to make this some other color just so we can see what it's supposed to do. Can you guys see that better?
A little bit.
You can see the three-dimensional on that better.
Can you try like
Oh, let's do a yellow. There we go. Yellow's better.
yellow?
Gray just was not doing anything, so I'm having to choose a different color so you guys can see. Now, keep in mind, once you hit OK on that 3D thing, don't go back to Effect and 3D and try it again. It gets really confused. It's like, oh, you want a 3D, something that's already 3D?
Well,
And it'll tell you, do you want to do a new one? Okay, well, let's do this.
It'll tell you to go into the appearance
Oh,
panel.
okay. It'll
Like,
tell
so
me. It didn't used to tell me that.
Yeah, just make sure you read.
Yeah, read.
Instead of hitting just okay.
Okay, when I hit revolve, it'll say, this will apply another instance to this effect. Do you want to apply a new effect, or should you go to, it says, to edit the current effect, double click on the name of the effect in the appearances panel. Oh, I need to go to the appearances panel. Okay, I don't really want to make a new one. So I need to go to Window, Appearances. And here, in the Appearances panel, you'll see the 3D Revolve effect has been applied. Let me move these other things out here. So I can just double click on that, hit the preview button. There we go, because sometimes the preview button automatically turns off. Now, what I'm trying to mimic is I'm trying to mimic this look. Now, this is not long enough to completely mimic that look, but it really doesn't matter. I only need this portion anyway. So I'm trying to mimic the width of this, or at least the circularness of it. Circularness, is that a word?
Mm-hmm. It is now.
All right. So let me go ahead and get this so it's rotated in the right place. Let's do a 0 here. These numbers are important. So one is a 0 around the x-axis.
We know what you mean. And we still love you.
Thank you. There's a rotation around the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. We only do x and y for the most part in all the other software, but z means it goes into 3D. Okay? Now, I might have to scrunch that a little bit, but then again, I might not, so we'll just see. I don't think I can do a non-circular rotation. Let me see what perspective is. Oops. Let's take this perspective. Ooh, I like that. There we go. Ooh, yes, I can. Ooh, the perspective. You see how that did that? It kind of squished it a little bit. Ooh, I like that. That's new. That didn't used to be there. Nice. Okay, once I like what I have, I go ahead and hit OK. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave the Appearances panel up because we're going to go there again. Now we need to get Ben to bend inside of this. This is the exciting part. Now, there's a thing called symbols, and in order to get anything to bend into anything 3D, you have to create, whatever's going to go in there needs to be a symbol. Okay? So, to make this a symbol, I bring up the Symbols panel, and the Symbols panel looks like a little, like if you're playing cards, it looks like the clubs. And to make something a symbol, I just click and drag and add it to the Symbols panel. Now, it does give me some options. This is a movie or is this a graphic? This is not a movie. This is a graphic. Thank you. And just go ahead and hit OK. And their bend is now a symbol. I cannot wrap bend in a 3D object without it being a symbol first. Okay?
Just a quick thing, because I put texture on my words when I did this,
Uh-huh.
and it would not accept it as a graphic, so I had to put it as a movie clip.
Yes. Oh, yeah. There's some things that when you're working things graphically, it's like I can't 3D wrap something that I've used the gradient mesh tool on.
Mm-hmm.
It does have limitations, folks. Certain textural things, and it does have some limitations. Okay, so the word bend is now a symbol. Now, did we just make this white? What color did we make this, Tiffany? Yeah, for yours.
We went into the geometry. Like, we got rid of that shading. And
Oh, okay. Okay, thank
made
you for
the
thinking that.
geometric and
Okay.
then erased the.
All right,
the form.
gotcha. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to image map this onto this form. So I'm going to go back to appearances because I'm going to edit the appearance of this 3D by mapping the word bend on it. Let me hit preview. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it first. Okay, so I didn't do anything. I just double clicked on the appearance. The appearance is these are the things that are applied to that shape. And I'm opening it and hit preview. Okay, now to image map, there's a thing called map art. And what this does, it maps the artwork to surfaces of 3D objects. Now there are many surfaces to this object. There's an outside surface, there's an inside surface, there's this front rim right here, and then there's a back rim that we can't even see. So there are at least 4 surfaces to this piece of artwork. That's really important we understand that because oftentimes I'm wrapping on the wrong surface and I can't see what I'm doing. I'm like, where is it? It's because it's on some surface I can't even see. So when I hit map art, the little red, or it depends on what layer you're on, but these little wireframes, they let you know what surface that's going to map to. That is the interior diameter and the interior surface of the tube. This has 4 surfaces. If I click through here, there's the back rim, there's the front rim, and there's the outside. If I wanted bend to go on the outside, which could work, I would choose this 4th surface to work with. If I wanted to go on the inside, I would choose this surface. So you can't just go, oh, this window's up, I'm going to start mapping the art. You have to figure out what surface you want to map it to. I think just so bend will read easier, I'm going to map it on the outside surface.
Okay.
How's that sound? I'm reevaluating.
Yeah.
So there's the outside surface. Now, this white and this gray resemble front and back. Now, I don't see my symbol yet, but where it says symbol up here, there is my symbol for bend because I had to save it as a symbol in the symbols panel. Now it'll go there. Now you notice that it's too big for that space. So what I can do is I hold down the shift key and I resize this so that it fits in that space. I might even make it a little bit bigger or longer. I just do this until it looks good. And I'm looking at this in the preview. Okay? I'm like, okay, that looks pretty good. I can't really change the symbol. I can't change the font. I can't change how bold it is or anything like that. I would have to create a new symbol if I'm thinking, oh, this really doesn't work well for me.
And it looks like you're stretching it, but you're not.
Yeah, it's because of the perspective and stuff. It looks bad here, but because when things go back in the distance, it does something to it. So I'm having to stretch it. This is one time when stretching something is acceptable, is because it looks nice there.
Looks great.
I hit OK. And then what I need to do is I need to get rid of this yellow because I want to place that over this.
Right.
Okay? So now I'm going to do no shading. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to tell this to fill that with not yellow, but nothing. Okay? So I'm going to hit OK. And right now the color fill on this elongated shape, see the elongated shape is still there? It just happens to have been 3D'd and pushed back. I'm going to say, hey, your color fill is none. Let me go to the swatches palette and say none. Oops. Ugh.
There.
White. We'll just go white.
But then when you put it over the thing, will the white show up?
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. If I put it over here, the white will show up. But what I'm thinking here, gosh, we're going to bring this into InDesign. I like it really to be none. But then the black, oh, this is really tough because then the type doesn't show up. Oh,
Why?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
See, I have the invisible geometry on.
Oh, invisible geometry. Okay, so let me go back
When we
to
mapped it,
3D. Let me go to preview. And when we did the mapping of the artwork,
Invisible.
we had invisible geometry. Oh, that's right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Invisible geometry. Thank you. I'd forgotten about that.
Invisible.
It's one little thing that can make your life a headache or a pleasure, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Invisible geometry. Okay, okay. There we
And
go.
then you can, get rid of the lines.
Okay. Now, what I do is I then turn off this layer. Where's my layers panel? Oops. They've changed these a little bit. There we go. Turn off that layer. I save this as the word bend. File, save. Or actually, cool thing about Illustrator and InDesign, they work well together. Let me see if I can copy this and paste it into InDesign.
You totally drag it.
Copy paste.
Or drag it over, yeah. Or click and drag it over. The thing is, you don't want it to pixelate on you, you don't want it to rasterize. But InDesign is vector and Illustrator is vector. So those two can play nicely together. Photoshop, I don't copy and paste anything from Photoshop to Illustrator or InDesign because Photoshop is raster and those other two are vector. InDesign and Illustrator are vector.
But if you just wanted that by itself, it saves as an EPS.
Yeah, if I wanted it by itself, I'd save it as an EPS.
Okay.
But now I'm going to build in my digital pasteboard, which is known as InDesign, I'm going to build this as a completed project. So I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to, it's taking its time. I'm going to have only one page because I'm not doing sketches. I'm going to make this 7 inches by 5 inches because that's what the project calls for.
Make a new document.
I mean, you guys don't have to make a new document because you might already have documents. You just delete all the pages that you don't need and save it as the final. Okay, now I'm going to place the image that of the pipes. Now, we'll pretend this is the right size. I didn't go into Photoshop and do that Photoshop magic. I'm going to go to Illustrator because it is vector. I'm going to copy this. I'll see if it'll go into InDesign and paste it or click and drag. And I'm going to look and see if it's pixelated. It's not. That means it's still vector. And I can place this over my tube. I don't believe I can change the color on this. I certainly will try. I may be wrong, but no, it will just do the fill. Even if I click on the T for type, it won't do it because it doesn't recognize it as type. So if you wanted a specific color, you would have to do that in Illustrator. Okay, I might resize this just a tad bit so it'll read better. But I could have bent this on, either the inside or the outside of the pipe. I would have just chosen a different surface.
And I know in Illustrator, if it's not the size that you want, you can just go back to that that rectangle and size it down or up.
Yeah, here you can size up or down too because it's vector. It doesn't blow it out of proportion. Now,
But without having to go all the way back into the 3D.
Yeah, I don't have to go back into 3D to resize something. Now, we're going to pretend that this was the right size in the first place. And now I have to resize this. Oops. Make sure I'm using the right tools for the job here. What is happening there? Maybe I do have to resize it in Illustrator because it's wanting to crop it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I may have to resize that in Illustrator. There we go. Oh, I must have had something selected weird. And I'm almost done. I just have to look for readability, maybe reduce it down a little bit, maybe scrunch it in a little bit more, but I'm done. Okay, so that covered 3D Revolve, how to create a tube. And it's so simple because you're thinking, oh my God, that little slice, that little elongated box created a tube. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's about the thickness. When you're doing a 3D Revolve, it's about the thickness of an object. It's not about, it's also the shape of the object. I can do a Coca-Cola bottle, in a heartbeat. How thick is that Coca-Cola glass, and what is its shape? Well, the Coca-Cola glass, or its shape, in fact, I could place a Coke bottle and make it easier, but I'll just do it quick and dirty. I'm in Illustrator again, but I'm thinking, okay, the lip of this Coke bottle is so like this, then I have this shape here. I might as well fill this with a color so you can see what I'm doing. So I can, let's say we do a Coke bottle green. I got another little dip there. It comes out like so. It goes out. Oh wait, it comes out and then it goes like this, and then it comes out again and goes like that, and then it comes out again and goes like this, and then it comes down and it flares out. Okay, I'm running out of room, and it comes out. And it comes like this, and then it comes like this, and I go to about the halfway point of that Coke bottle. Oops, maybe I should hold down the shift key here, and then I come back and I double back on myself, but it's just the thickness of the glass of the Coke bottle. Okay, now this isn't going to look like, it's going to look like a funky bad Coke bottle, like somebody's bad design. Oops. Okay, so I'm almost done with the shape of the Coke bottle. This is going to be the fat little Coke bottle, by the way. This is too wide. And it's about the, what kind of shape do you want? Okay, so this is the shape, and how thick is it? This is the shape of my going to be very fat, ugly Coke bottle. Now I'm going to 3D revolve this shape, and it will turn into a bottle. So I go to Effect, 3D, Revolve, and I'm going to turn on my preview. Now it's backwards. It's rotating from the axis of the front, and I need to tell it, rotate from the axis. Is it left or right? Oh, it must be right. Nope. What the heck? Isometric right? Oh, I'll get it right in a second.
It definitely looks like a goblet.
Okay, now I want to make a goblet.
That's
Yeah.
one sexy goblet.
It needs to.
So
Oh,
it's
here it is. Where it says left edge, offset from the left edge. It needs to be the right edge. I know there's a left. There we go.
Oh, okay.
There's my ugly squat Coke bottle, or whatever Coke bottle. But it's open at the top because I didn't go halfway. This doesn't go halfway in. But if we look inside, it's actually closed at the bottom. Well, let me flip it all the way around. Again, this takes some computing, but it's closed at the bottom. Okay, so you guys can do Coke bottles, you can do lampshades, you can do anything.
It's crazy.
And then I can map the word Coca-Cola on there.
You can literally just make whatever shape you want and it'll
Yes.
make a
I didn't.
You think about it has to be symmetrical, and you think about, okay, I'm looking at the outside contour of this shape, and I'm thinking about the thickness of the material. If it closes, then you need to go to the halfway, that's the open part, you just leave it open, but if it closes, you go halfway to the halfway point of the closed part of it. But yeah, it's about the thickness and the shape of the material. And a lot of people don't know that when they're doing 3D, and it really confuses them. They're like, how come I can't get this to work? Because I'm thinking about, if I were doing this cup, and I took this lid off, this McDonald's styrofoam cup, this is open, so I start drawing here, but that's closed, and I draw all the way down to the bottom of the cup. I come over halfway point, where this halfway point is, and then I come back and I draw the inside of the cup, which is only so thick. That's the only shape I need. And that outside contour and the thickness give you the ability to create a 3D object. Is that fun or what? Okay. So that concludes 3D revolving and applying, what did we do? We applied we image mapped. So I can map art on this as well. I need to find the right surface. I can say, hey, let me find the right surface to map on. This has 14 surfaces. This is much more complicated. Okay, is that inside or outside? Sometimes you got to zoom in. I don't know. It's probably inside. It usually does the insides first. So I'm trying to find the nope, there's the inside. Okay, I need to find the outside surface of where the type would go.
That's amazing.
I go find it. I place it. I size it.
Now I know why these programs are so expensive.
And there we go. So now I have some sort of product. It's something we're going to drink, and it's called Bend.
We're about to get bent.
We're about to get bent.
Or it'll give you the bends.
Or it'll give you the bends, yes. Okay, so guys, yeah, it's nice that I can show you this because then you better understand how to do it. Okay, so that's that. Now the next thing I'm going to show is,
Just FYI, we got 20 minutes.
okay, okay. I've shown perspective before, I think, haven't I?
Yes.
You guys got the perspective thing?
There's a video.
I got the video, I think I posted it. So let's go on to the Photoshop thing. Okay, the Photoshop thing is about this stool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some other things. I mean, there's a lot of things this could work with. So let me go ahead and place this stool. Let me see, what was that called? There we go. So we're placing this stool. And this is an InDesign. I just placed it for position, and I'm going to put him in here. And I want type to appear. Actually, it's not really the best image because there's white back there. Let me find a different image. I'm going to actually do the surfing image. I'm going to place a word behind these people. I need something with a background, basically. And that didn't really have a background. So I'll get these surfer guys. Okay. So I place the surfers. That's the first thing I do. I place the image in InDesign, and I get it ready to go. I don't do a whole lot with it here. It's just I place the one I'm using, get him in position. That's where I want him. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So what I need to do now is open that image in Photoshop. And let's say I want the word, what was the word? Surf back here. And I want the S to hide behind the surfboard and poke behind her head and all I want those letters to go behind these people. But I also want this wall intact. I want the background intact. So let me show you what to do. And this is assuming we're doing the digital pasteboarding in InDesign. You could mask it, but the problem is then you have to keep going to Photoshop to move the word, and it's best just to do this in InDesign. So to create a clipping path, I grab the pen tool. Actually, with the background like this, I might not even have to grab the pen tool. It's all blue. So, but normally I'll have to grab the pen tool. And you want to make sure that up here in the upper right hand, or excuse me, left hand corner, that it's not shaped, that the word path is selected. Clipping path is what we're creating. So if shape is selected, it doesn't create the same kind of path. Okay, that's a little detail that I often miss, and I start drawing, and I'm like, oh, I'm almost done. I'm like, oh no, it's not a path, ah! And I have to start over. Yeah. So I'm going to start down here at this surfboard. I usually zoom way in so I can bite in. This one's kind of tricky. I got to get right near the edge. I'm going to bite into it just a tiny bit, just a pixel or so. I start drawing around the surfboard with the pen tool. And again, I'm looking more behind me than I am in front of me. You know, what's this doing behind me as far as these lines? This one's coming to a point, so I can click. I'm going to be kind of quick and sloppy just to try to save time. So I would normally spend a good amount of time making sure this is accurate and clean. Sometimes if the edges are really, if it's really super important, I will do these in Photoshop. But the bad thing is it's not real flexible. Like I'll put the type in Photoshop as well. But if I want more flexibility, I will just do a clipping path, and I can move my type in InDesign in a matter of just a couple of seconds. Okay, so let's say that the letters don't go any farther than that, or there. Now let me zoom into her elbow. So all I'm interested in clipping is this top portion. I'm zooming into her elbow, and this is continuing this path. This path goes from here over to here, and maybe I have some letters that are going in front of her or behind her arm. Again, I would be very careful about these paths. I'm doing a little quick and dirty. Some of these I'll take a lot more time on, especially hair. I'll take a lot of time on hair, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm actually giving her a slight haircut. But I would take the time and do a clipping path on the hair. Yes?
Do I use this for the surf?
No, this is a different thing. No, I just needed this image because the stool image had no background. Okay, so I'm doing this, da-da-da. I'm gonna hurry it along, okay? So I'm just gonna have that word only go to her hand. I'm not gonna have it go behind him because I'm just in a hurry, okay? So I want to clip out this section of this person and that surfboard. So this is my clipping path, and it's not pretty, okay? I go to paths, I tell it to save the path, and then I tell it to make it a clipping path. By industry standard, the flatness is 8. I'm not really sure why, it is. And then I save this as an EPS. Save as surfer clipped, because you don't want to save over your other stuff on accident. And usually we save these as EPSs.
What's the rationale for EPS?
Because when it goes to print, those are encapsulated PostScript printers, and so they can, when the raster image processor goes to process this data, it processes EPSs better than it does JPEGs. Plus, JPEGs actually have loss compression. It loses data, whereas EPSs don't.
Oh, so EPS is a better JPEG?
EPS is not even a JPEG. Okay, so EPS is encapsulated PostScript. JPEG is, no, they're two different file formats altogether. There's TIFFs, JPEGs, EPSs, GIFs, PNGs. There's all sorts of file formats. So that's just one of the many file formats. Okay, now I'm going to draw a box. I'm going to type the word in surf, and I really don't care what font it is right now because I'm in a hurry. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little smaller because I didn't clip him, but I did clip her. And let's say I want this to go behind the surfboard, behind her head, and behind her arm. I'm going to go to File and Place, and I'm going to grab the clipped surfers. I'm going to pop them out there. Notice how they're too big?
Yeah. And you
Okay.
put it over top.
I just put it over the top. Now, here's how I do this. There is some mathematics to this. I'm going to shrink them down a little bit so I can get them on the page here. And the EPSs always show kind of crunchy looking. What I do is I click on the original image and I look to see what percentage it is. It's 31.875 by 31.875. I have to do the same to this. Okay? Double click on it, 31.875. And the width is 31.875. Okay? So you want them to be exactly the same size as the other image. Okay? And if I place this right on top of this other one, exactly, I should have put my bleed lines in. Let me zoom in. There we go. I may have to play around, but here we go.
That's hot.
Now I have the type behind parts of the image. Okay, it appears as if it's back there. And if somebody says, hey, you need to move that word surf, I don't have to go into Photoshop to do that. I can go, oh, you want me to move it up? Oh, you want me to go over? Oh, you want me down? Oh, you're having a hard time reading that as a U? Let me get that, Oh, you want me to resize it? Oh, okay, no problem. You want it this big? Okay, great. You see how little time this takes? This is why I do this in InDesign, not Photoshop. InDesign is the digital pasteboard.
But you were in Photoshop?
No, I'm in InDesign.
You were in Photoshop?
I was in Photoshop to do the clipping path.
Okay.
And the thing that I did in Photoshop that was a clipping path was just this.
I think if you try to do this all like in InDesign,
This.
basically, or in Photoshop, it becomes like concrete. Like you have to have it basically completed. In
Yeah,
Photoshop.
yeah. If I'm doing it in Photoshop, sometimes I have no
So,
choice and I have to do them in
yeah.
Photoshop, but it's like I can't. I want it to be the absolute done solution. But we have so many changes that fly at us that this digital pasteboard thing in InDesign really is nice. If I have a logo like the masthead of Time magazine or whatever, that can work out
But yeah,
differently.
that's exactly what I was trying to get at about the stool.
Okay.
For ball.
So the thing I did in Photoshop was I did a clipping path of this section. But in InDesign, that's all I did. I did a clipping path of that section and saved it. And then when I got to InDesign, what I did is I placed the image twice. Once as the full image, then I put the type over it, and then last as the EPS, clipping path object. Exactly over, pixel per pixel, the place where it should go.
That's great.
Super, super simple and very easily editable. That's the biggest thing. Big time saver. Being able to edit it so quickly. What if I spell that word wrong, or somebody wants me to change the typeface or whatever? I'm like, ah, darn it! Now I gotta go into Photoshop.
You can change the word.
Oh yeah, right now I can because it's
It's by itself.
it's by itself.
Oh, that's right. Duh. Yeah, I forget what I do, I guess.
Yeah, in InDesign, and I can change the color. I don't have to go back to Photoshop.
So you
Surf and bake.
Okay.
Sounds good to you, doesn't it? No, that's a bad
Yeah.
color. Okay.
It does. I could do that.
The last one was, well, we did perspective another time, so you guys can look at that one online. What was the other thing?
That was it.
That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
Perspective you can do on that guitar. Okay, yeah, that one's perspective. Okay, that was it. So I'll stop that recording.